Ladies, are you ready for some real talk? The AchieveHERs Unfiltered podcast isn't a bunch of fluffy stuff about career fashion or networking do's and don'ts. It's real heart-to-heart conversations with inspiring leaders. It's from women, by women, and for women. Tune in for a panel discussion on today's hottest topics that women face every day. We'll also discuss things that rarely enter the conversation. Subscribe to the AchieveHERs Unfiltered podcast on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you like to watch or listen. All right. Hello, everyone. We are here with another episode of AchieveHERs Unfiltered at Second Soul Studios. I think you did that on purpose so that I didn't have to say, hey, guys, I'm going to get you on camera one day. I love this crew. I have three wonderful women with me, and I'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
Hello, I'm Pamela Lee. I am the Chief Financial Officer at Habitat for Humanity of Pinellas in West Pasco County.
I'm Kaylin Ingram, and I'm a freelance graphic designer and muralist with my company, K-Coastal Designs.
And I'm Tamara Glenn, the founder and CEO of ClearPath Health, LLC. It's a mental health agency here in Pinellas.
Wonderful. I think we have a really interesting topic today, turning points. When you have to make a major decision or proactively make a change. That, of course, we could say we do that all the time. But I think you and I were just talking a little bit about one of your major turning points and a decision that you have to make is really, I feel like today's conversation is about decisions and taking a leap of faith sometimes, making a career change, possibly doing a real personal growth change. So why don't we start with you, Kaylin,
Yeah.
and you can tell us a little bit about what we were just talking about earlier.
Yeah, so K-Coastal, it's been kind of like before I went full-time freelance, it was definitely a side hustle. I was working for my family's law firm, Ingram Injury Law, and I truly did love working there. And it was, my family, my dad and my brother are the attorneys there. My mom works there. It was all the employees there are truly like family to me. So when I started K-Coastal, I was still working full-time there, and it was a side hustle, nights and weekends type thing for a while. And then it got to the point where, I did a mural in town in Dunedin, and it was the She Believed She Could So She Did mural. And I remember I did it on a weekend, and then I had to finish it up and stuff on a Monday. So obviously I was kind of missing some work, and it got to the point where with murals, that's something you can't necessarily do at night.
Yeah, and you can't rush it either.
No, yeah. So it was, I was kind of working on both at the same time, and it was getting to this kind of tipping point of sorts. And I went to my mom at the firm, and I was like, hey mom, I think I might need to go, part-time at the law firm to, kind of manage some of my K-Coastal clients. And this is what was truly the most amazing thing ever was that my mom, my boss at Ingram, right, she was the one who said, I think you need to go full-time freelance and just kind of take the leap and jump and see if it works. And that was really cool because to have my family's support, even though I'd be leaving them, and it was a difficult decision for me because I loved working there. It's my family's law firm. I get to see my brother every day. I get to see my parents. It was really, and like we were talking about earlier, rewarding to work there. And, I love the type of work they do, how they treat their clients and stuff like that. So it was definitely difficult. And they threw me this party and they got me a cake that said She Believed She Could So She Did. And I was crying all day. But it was such a shift in how I was going to attack, my K-Coastal clients and, really make it work. Because it's, it was a privilege in and of itself to be able to, make that decision, and I'm so grateful that they, encouraged it.
That's
and
incredible
it.
that your family supported you enough to be like, hey, here we are. We have this family business. You're in there, you're working.
Right.
And then this talent that you have that was getting so much attention and your heart's in it clearly.
Right.
That your mom was able to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
go for it.
And I was
Yeah.
even still on the, like, I can do it part-time. I can do it all. I can do it all. And she's like,
Yeah.
you need to do all of the freelance. And so it's really kind of, but, you know, she even from the beginning, I know we were kind of talking about mindset and, you know, just the shift in how you think about things. But in 2019, after I had graduated, I think I was actually still in college, and then I graduated, and she was the one who really, you know, almost like forced these, you know, self-help books and stuff on. And like, honestly, I was just kind of going about life. And I feel like the average way, like people, you know, they go to work, they go to school, they do their thing, and they go to bed and they do it again. And it wasn't anything like, I wasn't in like a position where it's like, you need to read the self-help book or else like you're done for. But it was definitely like just shifting the way I thought about everyday things that happen. And like the way, you know, we get up in the morning, that's a blessing. You know, it's like we get to, you know, and living in the now as opposed to the past and the future, and really thinking about that, thinking about, you know, the food I was eating, the people I was meeting with, like just being very conscious and deliberate with all of my actions. And that was really enlightening in a way. And, you know, reading all these books and stuff, shifting my thinking, I think is what started the seed for K Coastal in the first place. And I never would have bumped into the right people, and I never would have met the right people had it not been for Ingram Injury Law. And so it all is so connected, and I feel like the universe really puts people in your path for a reason. But then at the same time, you have to make those proactive decisions because it's your life. And at the end of the day, you know, it's your day. Every day, it's your day to day. So, you know, you gotta seize it.
That's really good. So, you know, I mean, when you first went to your mom to say, hey, I think I need to, you know, pull back and go part-time. I mean, that obviously, it's your mom, it's your family business.
I know, my best friend.
Yeah, that takes a lot to kind of work up to that.
Right.
What advice can you give someone who's kind of in that type of a situation where, okay, I've been thinking that I need to pull back on this and go to, or just, I mean, you could really make it fit for anything, but going to someone who you're so close to, because my knee-jerk reaction is, oh my gosh, you know, I don't want to disappoint anybody, but I also want to, I think this is the path for me. And it sounds like your mom was very supportive anyway and kind of guided you with, hey, why don't you read this book? Hey, why don't you do this? You know,
yes.
Kind of guiding you that way.
It's literally all because of her.
Yeah, which is incredible. Not a lot of people have that situation. Not a lot of people have it where there's someone who's kind of pushing them in that direction. But that moment where you said, okay, I do need to reprioritize and I want to go. I mean, that's the decision you made to go to your mom. And of course it turned into, actually, honey, I think you need to go all in. Go all in. You're right. I need you to get out of the firm. Yeah. Actually, maybe your mom moves on to this something. It's like, we got to figure out how to get her to move along.
Oh, my gosh. But I guess my advice would be, because we were also talking earlier about how, like, a lot of times you're leaving something that, you know, you're not comfortable with or you need to leave. You're not in a whether it's a job you're with that, you know, like they're not treating the employees the way, or like, you know, sometimes you are in a position where, or, you know, the culture isn't right, or you need to get out, or you need to do something that's better for you, or else like it's going to damage your own, you know, self, you know, what am I trying to say? It's going to damage your own space kind of. And so, but fortunately, you know, I wasn't in that position. I had, you know, a great situation. So if my advice for somebody who's, you know, kind of pro and conning two great situations and, you know, but they're just generally very passionate about one. I think it shows when you're passionate about something. And if you know, if your heart's in it and if you are truly passionate about going a certain way, I think anybody you love and care, or anybody who loves you and cares about you will see that passion, and it's just going to make them happy. So I think it was a big, you know, shift for me because I was trying to do it all, and it was like clearly weighing on me too. Like I was just like up all night, all week. Like I was not sleeping, and it was like affecting, you know, I was like not eating right, and it was like not right. So I had to like it came to a point for me where I had to just pick one or the other. Like neither would have been a bad option. But I think just seeing how passionate I was about the freelance graphic design and the murals and stuff, I was like lighting up about doing these. It was just so fun. And it was, you know, it wasn't like work. I was like, this is so fun. I get to like, you know, brand these businesses and, paint something on a wall. Like, I was like, this is
Well, and I
it's
think it's because you
awesome.
find your purpose. I think
Right.
that was where your passion is, and why your why was bigger for K Coastal than it was for the injury law.
Yeah.
Like you had more passion for
yeah,
it.
which, and I am super, I still do actually a lot of work for the law firm, which is kind of cool, but I can do it as like a client. And, I do a lot of like the mediation PowerPoints and stuff like that. And it's something I'm passionate. I've like grew up in that industry. So I do have a passion for that, but I think seeing this, my mom was like, it's a no-brainer. And I think for anybody who's in the same situation, you just have to do what you want, like how you want to wake up in the morning and what job you want to go to. It's like, that is it, or else the regret. I feel like if you do it and it doesn't work out, that's fine. But if you don't do it, you will never know. And the regret.
Yeah. Well, and in your situation, like you said, you had two really good options.
Right,
You were
right.
in a really good space already. This was just leading with your passion and
Right.
being able to put more time and energy into that.
Right.
But then there are people who might have a different situation where you're like, I hate to go to work every day, and my option of taking a leap of faith and making a major decision is also because I'm tired of not being happy. So that was a perfect segue into our next story.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to hear about this.
Yeah, so how ClearPath started was right during the pandemic. I was working as an executive director of actually a big mental health company here in Florida, but they were owned by a corporation. And I have to say, I did love my employees. I did love the people that I work with on a day-to-day basis. But when COVID happened, we were not given the support by the corporate office, and we really didn't have a lot of resources. Like one of the things my staff didn't have was like a telehealth platform. So we couldn't go see our clients. The clients couldn't come into the clinic, but we didn't have a platform to be able to offer the services. So I kept harassing corporate pretty much. You need to give me a platform. So they charged us a ridiculous amount of money for the platform that I needed to provide client services. And it was very frustrating. And so I was really frustrated with them, not with my day-to-day job. But every month we needed to sort of come up with explain our numbers. However, whether we made money or lose money, we needed to explain it to corporate. And that was the part that was very frustrating, because to me, as a social worker, I was like, we need to help people. People are struggling with mental health. We're in the middle of a pandemic. This should be all about helping people. And no, the conversation was, what were your numbers? What were your numbers? What were your numbers? Why didn't you hit your numbers? So as I told you, I attended a conference from Tony Robbins called Unleash the Power Within. And one of the exercises is a very in-depth exercise. And at the end it was very emotional, but at the end is what really gives you joy, what gives you passion, what do you want to do when you grow up, kind of a thing. And I literally turned around to my husband and I said, I want to start my own company. I don't want to continue working for these people. So anyway, I did go to work. The event stopped on a Sunday, and I created the LLC the next day, but I went to work. I continued to go to work. And the corporate...
You didn't Jerry Maguire it and be like, I'm out. Who's with me?
Well, we'll get there. So literally 2 weeks later, the next week, the week I go after, I created the LLC, and I said, I'm going to take my time. I want to do this the right way. I'm not going to do anything rash. I went to work, and they now started came back with telling me I needed to cut $400,000 out of my operations budget. And I'm like, dude, you just charged me $25 a clinician for telehealth. My revenue is going down, and now you want me to cut $400,000 in the middle of a pandemic?
I'm frustrated for you.
Are you insane?
Yeah.
So, one of the things my boss used to say is like, she called me a hot Cuban. I don't have a filter when I'm passionate about something. So I did not respond the way they wanted, of course. I said, where do you expect me to cut $400,000? I don't have it. There's no way. So we had arguments about that for like a week. And I reached out to my mentor. And again, my mentor said, go do your thing. Leave this place and go do your thing. And I'm like, yes, but I'm not ready. I'm still have to set it up. So anyways, long story short, they ended up coming in 2 weeks later from the week that they asked me to cut the $400,000. And I gave them $300,000. That wasn't enough. It needed to be $400,000. I don't even know why. So
I'm like,
Are you not happy?
So I was not happy with them, and they knew I was not happy with them. So anyways, 2 weeks later on a Friday, my new boss, because it wasn't my old boss, I love the new boss, not so much. My new boss came in and they fired me on the spot.
Oh, wow.
And instead of being, I have never been fired in my life. Like,
Yeah.
I've been working since I'm 14 years old. I've never been fired. Instead of being upset that I was fired, I'm like, this is
Relieved.
so awesome. Now I get to do what I want. So literally my employees were crying as I was packing my bags, because literally they asked me to walk out the building. So I walked out. I couldn't pack everything. Couldn't fit into my car. And then I called all of my managers started calling me, and I said, "Listen, I have a plan. Just hang in
It's all
there.
good. Yeah.
I have to come back to get my boxes. So can you guys bring it down tomorrow? Because I'm not even going back to see him." So they all came back down. All my management team came down to say goodbye, and they were all crying. And I'm like, hang in there. I'm doing something, and I'm going to take you with me. Don't worry. So, I started ClearPath immediately right after they fired me, applied to all the insurance, Medicaid. The process has been ridiculously long and frustrating. But I now hired 3 of those managers to come and work for me, which I'm super excited about. They're awesome. And I still keep working on, as we grow, I plan to grow this as big as them or bigger, because that's what I'm going to do. I'm very passionate about it, and I think that's the difference. I'm doing it the way I want it. I'm creating, like I said, raving fans. I want the clients to get the best treatment. I want the employees to really be treated well and get more benefits. Take care of their mental health. That's important to me. We are in this field, so we need to be the first line of defense in this work, because social work can burn you out really quickly. So even though we do have a productivity that if people have to meet, if I see you're struggling, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to say, how can I help you to not feel as overwhelmed so that you don't burn out in this field? Because it's a very stressful field. And again,
especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we've been, I went all in, literally. I was fired. I'm like, yay, got fired.
That's one hell of a turning point. I got fired today. And then you had to make the crazy big decision that you're like, I'm going to start this.
I did.
It's
working.
My own
I
place,
have 20,
my own company.
26 employees, and
That's incredible.
I'm
did
loving
that fast.
it. Yes, it's been a year. And
Yeah.
and
Really
we're lucky.
fast.
I'm going to knock on wood both ways. Every time we put it, like all the providers are struggling because nobody wants to work. We all know that. And all the other providers are struggling with hiring people. We have not had a problem. Anytime we put an ad out there, people want to work for us. And I think it's that. I'm very involved with the company. I'm not, again, I don't want to be a corporation up here. This is my baby, and this is the way I want to do it. So even the new employee, I meet with them on their first week. This is my vision. This is how I want to run this company. This is why I expect you to help. One of my things is giving back to the community. So we participated in the Clearwater Beach cleanup. We participated in the Pasco suicide walk. We are helping Ambi at Empowerment with counseling services for her clients. So that's what gives me joy, is giving back. So that's what we're doing.
Well, a turning point, obviously, with you also was getting into this.
Yes.
Becoming a social worker and making the decision to do that, because you had some people say probably not the best idea for you, and then obviously this is what you were meant to do, because we keep kind of saying what you're passionate about,
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about that.
So I came to the United States when I was 14, and I immediately went to high school, and I didn't speak a word of English. In Cuba, they don't teach you English, so that you don't come to the United States. You're the big bad wolf over here. So I went to high school, and I immediately said, all I want is to learn English. No, you still have to take courses. Okay, whatever. So they put me in, back then it was still ESL still existed, so it's English as your second language. So I had classes in Spanish, and then my English classes, and then literally I went and said, I want more English classes. So I ended up having 3 English classes every year for those 2 years. And I had great teachers that helped me practice my English. One of my first English teachers gave me baby books. That's how I started learning English. And I had to look up any word that I didn't know in the baby book in the dictionary, and then come back and tell her the story of the book in English. So it was great. I learned a lot of English because of that. Yeah. And I ended up, I remember to this day, my last book report to her before I graduated was on Uncle Tom's Cabin, and telling her the whole thing in English. So I was very proud of that. Anyways, how I came into social work was that because I only had 2 years of English, my goal was to go to college. I wanted to help people. I was going to be a doctor, because in Cuba, doctors are the shit, let me tell you. They're the thing. So I wanted to be a doctor. And so I was, very intently, and I have to go to college. My mom doesn't have any money. We just got here. So I need to get a scholarship. So I heard that Boston University had a scholarship for, poor families in the Boston area. You had to be in Boston, and you have to attend one of the Boston high schools and have good grades and get a good SAT. So when it came time to apply for colleges, I started applying for colleges, and my guidance counselor officer told me, do not apply to BU, you're not going to get in. And I said, why not? And she said, because you have to have, 1,600 or whatever it was, there was a number of the SAT, and you don't have enough English to get that. So don't even bother applying, you're going to lose your $200. And I'm like, okay, thanks, bye. Yeah. Literally went home and said, she's an idiot, and I'm applying to BU because they're offering a full-time scholarship, and the other colleges that I'm applying are not offering it full-time.
And thank God you did.
And I did. And I got the full-time, the full-paid scholarship. I went to BU. The first year was an absolute nightmare because I couldn't keep up. Again, I went pre-med. Pre-med, you have to take biology, chemistry, and physics pretty much every semester. And all 3 books are this big, and you have to read 5 to 7 chapters every other day for each class. And I just couldn't keep up. I mean, I would go to lectures. I would record the lecture because I couldn't take notes fast enough in English. And then I couldn't keep up with the reading. So at one point at the end of the first year, I got a D in chemistry. I was an A student my entire life. So when I got that D, I lost it. I went into my advisor crying hysterically, and I said, oh my God, I got a D. This is bad. I'm going to lose my scholarship. I cannot lose my scholarship. I have to graduate so I can help people. So he was great. He said, okay, what is it about people what do you want to do? And I said, help people. And so he said, but how? I said, well, I thought by being a doctor, I was going to help people. He said, well, that's not the only way you help people. There's other professions that help people. So he sent me to the psychology department, to the education department, and to the social work department to talk to professors about their career and what they've done and whatever. And the lady who I met for social work, totally blew my socks away. She was like, here are all the ways that you can help as a social worker. You can be a therapist, you can be a manager, you can do community outreach, you can create a movement, help the homeless. There's so many ways that you can help. And I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Yep. I'm going to be a social worker. So I switched my major to psychology because that was they didn't have a BA in social work back then. I'm dating myself. It's kind of old. So I turned my major to psychology major so I can get some of the psychology courses that I would need for social work anyways. And then I went to social work school, and I graduated, and it's been history ever since. And it's been great.
Wow.
I've been totally love social work.
That's incredible. Mm-hmm. God, I feel like you just gave us 4 examples of major, huge turning points, major, huge decisions especially in your career. That's
exactly.
Incredible.
And I think, the bottom line is I've always trusted my gut. And when you feel like if somebody's telling you no and you feel like that's the right thing for you to do, go jump and do it. If it might not work, but
that's good advice.
It might work.
That's really good advice.
And I think I've always been that way. My mom knows that. I say no a lot, and I will do what I need to do or what I want to do. So yes.
That's awesome. Well, we've been talking a lot about career moves and those turning points and making those decisions. Now I want to kind of turn it over to personal decisions and turning points for us. Yeah. And I know you've got a really incredible background story.
So I'll back it up a little further, kind of to give you some lead story of how I got to that point, which is a turning point in itself. It was about 6 or 7 years ago. I was going through a divorce, a nearly decade-long relationship coming to an end, and pretty suddenly. So I'm a planner. I had our whole life planned out. I knew what we were doing a year from now. I knew what we were doing 5 years from now. I knew what we were doing 30 years from now. Mm-hmm. So when that all ends and you're essentially mourning the death of something that's still alive, I was spiraling. It was, what do I do? Where do I go? Who am I? What do I, I felt like I was literally spinning 100 directions because I had no idea what path to follow, what plan to follow. I had no plan for the first time in my life. So I was
a decade relationship ending is a really long time.
Yeah. And so I was actually talking to someone who really I didn't know very well, but we were having a very heavy conversation. I was telling this person really about my relationship ending and my whole life story. And so it was a pretty deep conversation for someone who you just knew as an acquaintance, but I just felt very comfortable for whatever reason. And when this person at the end of the conversation looked me dead in the eye and said, "You settled on everything in life and in love." And it chilled me to the core because this person was right. And I had never realized that before. And the next day, I pretty much cried the whole day because it was a depressing feeling.
Yeah. Well, and the realization.
Yes.
Really.
Yeah. But then I realized I can choose anything I want. And so instead of spiraling and feeling overwhelmed by the amount of choices and the amount of directions I could go, I started to feel inspired because now I'm unattached and I can do anything I want.
Anything. It's pretty cool, huh? Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. I can make my own plan. Like, I have a new plan, and I don't know what it is yet at this point. So, I go through the divorce, and it's about a year post-divorce, and I'm so thankful that I did spend that year back in Illinois, because you need your friends and family when you're going through that, and I needed to get on my feet. Mm-hmm. But I knew at that time it's time to, I need to start figuring it out. So I was actually down here on a girls' trip. It was March. And
spring break.
Yeah. We were cycling from Miami to Key West.
Oh, wow.
Over a couple days, and stayed in Key West for a couple days.
Key West will do it to you.
Yeah. I drove the girls back to Fort Lauderdale, dropped them off, and I said, you know what, I'm going to stay a couple extra days. I got in the car. Oddly enough, the rental place upgraded me to a convertible, so I was really excited.
Sweet.
Because guess what? I'm driving across the state because I like the Gulf Coast way better. So I'm driving across, and I was thinking to myself, I belong in Florida. I've always, since as young as I can remember, wanted to live in Florida. Mm-hmm. My ex-husband and I had originally, when we started dating, had plans to move to Florida, and then he decided, he's lived in Springfield his whole life, never wanted to leave Springfield, so that was a huge shift for me. And so I'm like, I belong here. And so I came to this side, spent a few days here, drove back, sitting in the airport in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm like, my flight's delayed by several hours, and I'm annoyed because mostly I don't want to leave. And I ask myself, why am I even going back? And the only logical thing I could think of was to get my pets.
Yeah, can't leave those
they're my babies. Mm-hmm. And I also, I heard in my voice, if not now, when? Right? Because I knew I wanted to be down here, but I was like, hey, in a couple years, save up some money. Mm-hmm. I'm like, if not now, when? Just kept ringing in my head. And I'm like, now's the time. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to go back home and I'm going to get attached to someone, and something's going to happen, and it's never going to, mm-hmm. It won't happen. So I had my computer with me. I flipped it open. I started updating my resume and started shooting my resume out to recruiters and anything else that I saw on LinkedIn that I thought would look good.
Oh, I love it.
And
I love it.
Yeah.
I had a couple interviews over Memorial Day weekend. And by the end of June, I was packing up all my stuff and I was moving down here. And 5 years later, here I am.
Oh, I love it.
And literally the best decision I've ever made. Every day I make sure what I'm doing for me. Mm-hmm. And I'm happily married now, and, remarried, and mm-hmm. I have a wonderful job. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
The impact we make in the community is huge. And so it's just been nothing but great things since I made that decision.
I love it. There's a common thread, even though each of your stories are so different. You were doing each of these things for you, mm-hmm. which I love because, especially with AchieveHERs and all of us coming together and just, we really do try and do the women supporting women, but we also need to remember to support ourselves. And these decisions that each of you made, I didn't hear, I mean, yes, you had mentors. Yes, you had your family. You had your friends, and you had the person that you confided in that was like, girl, let me just tell you, you're settling this. I mean, it's oh, okay. We have all of that, but we made these decisions for ourselves, and look at us now. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're like, I feel like you're like freshly off of like, oh my God, I'm gone. And I just, opened up a whole new business and it's thriving, and oh my God, you go girl.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, so you're taking a leap of faith with, of course, the support of your family behind you, but this is your thing. Like this is, girl, you're like young entrepreneur. I mean, oh my God, also just so incredible. And then you're like, I'm not doing this shit anymore. Exactly. I'm gonna go.
Winter's a choice, and one I choose not to make it.
Yes, exactly. You're like, I am meant to be here in Florida, and in a convertible, and I am going to come down here with my animals. Got to go get them. Mm-hmm. But I love that because again, it was for each of you. And I think that that's so incredible. Also, you mentioned the thing that Tony said was what gives you joy. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's another big takeaway, because I feel like each of you in your experiences, that's what you were thinking, okay, what about me? Like, what's going to make me happy? Mm-hmm. What do I want? Yeah. And sometimes I feel like we don't do that enough. We do stay too long, whether it's in a relationship or a job or just to make someone else happy, and it's not us. I think that's so important that we try and make it okay to put us first, and also look at our, when we're looking at making major life decisions, it's for us. And I think that's just incredible. Something that I've been asking at the end of each podcast is, what is a conversation, future conversation that you would like to have? Because, just sitting here listening to each of you, I thought of like 10 other different subjects that we could talk about, because, I mean, we could talk all day, and this is so incredibly interesting. Yeah. But, every single discussion, there's a separate takeaway. But when you think about it, there's a lot of things that we don't talk about. And we should normalize these types of conversations. And I know I've put you on the spot about this before. Yeah. And it's funny, I can't even remember what it was that you said.
Well, my answer's still the same.
It's still the same. Okay, what is it?
And I think you even talked about it a little bit earlier. It's mental health. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right. We are talking about it, but we're not really talking about it. And let's be honest, past 2 years have been hard. Yep. Yeah. And we are not okay. Yeah. And I feel like it's okay. Like, people need to realize that it's okay to say that. And to really have those truly open conversations about mental health. I don't think we're there yet.
It's getting better, but it's still not. Yeah, I agree. It's getting better. It's definitely, I do feel, if anything came out of COVID that was positive, was that mental health has become a priority from, our governor. The first lady is very passionate about mental health and has thrown a lot of money to mental health, which we never used to have. And even at the federal level, they're creating more programs. They're giving more money to support mental health. So I think that was one of the positives of COVID, and having the opportunity. I mean, we were not, in the past, you were not allowed to do telehealth. You wouldn't get reimbursed. So if a person didn't have the ability to go to your office, or you have the ability to go to their home, they couldn't get services because telehealth was not an approved code. So that's another positive of COVID. You can have your mental health at home, in the comfort of your home. You don't have to leave your home, or if you don't feel comfortable leaving, somebody can see you over a TV. That is a big positive for mental health that we didn't have the luxury before COVID, and it's all pointing that it's going to stay. Telehealth is here to stay, and I mean, it is a blessing for some people, because there's some people that will never go to an office, or will never allow anybody in their home, or have agoraphobia of people, whatever. You're just sitting in front of a TV, and you're getting your mental health needs. That's awesome. Really awesome.
So what do you, is there a subject that you would like to see us discuss in a future podcast?
I'm very passionate about mental health. So, and especially minority communities. That's a piece that I actually talked to Sharon a while back, because that's one of the reasons, part of the reasons I started the company. Actually, the way that I set up the business is because of the minority population. So the minorities, Hispanic, Haitians, anybody that has especially Caribbean people, mental health is a taboo subject. You don't talk about mental health. Those people that go into a mental health center, they're crazy. So literally my first place was called North Suffolk Mental Health Agency. Even my grandmother, I was sick, she would bring me soup. She would not come into the building because if you get seen entering the building, then people know that you're crazy.
Yeah.
So she would make me soup, and I had to go out there to pick up my soup because she wasn't crazy. And I'm like, oh my God. So I have done a lot of education in my family, but a lot of the minority population, that's a big stigma for them. I'm not crazy. And, it's a lot of education. So I'm passionate about educating the community on what mental health really, taking care of your mental health really needs. It needs to be mental health is health. It really needs to be the same as you go to the doctor when your arm is broken or you have a heart attack, you go to a mental health provider when you're struggling with mental health. And we're not there yet. I mean, that's the conversation where it needs to be. We're not there yet. And especially for minority communities, I mean, my buildings are open in an office building on purpose so that it's not labeled mental health, and my name doesn't have mental health on it, which, as some of the marketing people have told me, well, you're really not marketing to mental health. I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing it on purpose. I don't want anybody to dissuade themselves from coming to see us because it says mental health on the building. So I'm literally here in Clearwater. I'm on the third floor, an office building. You can go in there to do all the things. Nobody's going to know that you're coming to see us. And that's what I'm planning to do to any other building that I open. And my name doesn't have mental health on purpose. I think that's what I'm passionate about. I want to do more education to the minority communities that you can take care of yourself. That mental health really is health, and we all struggle. It's not that you are the only one struggle. There's everybody struggling with COVID.
I love it.
Yeah. And I think that's another testament to you, Tamara, of how you've told us, you're not, you keep you and your clients separate on Facebook, and you also don't, make it the building obvious of you're going into mental health. I think that's just a further testament of how amazing you are at what you do, because you're not getting that Facebook advertising that a lot of other, companies would be getting in those referrals. And you're also not, necessarily advertising on the side of the road, and you're still have that clientele, and you still have those 26 employees in the 2 locations. It's that is just a testament of how successful your business is. So, and that you're doing it for the right reasons. And she was talking about the flaming hoops you have to go through with the insurance companies, and just to be able to see every type of person as opposed to just the people who can pay out of pocket. So that is amazing. Thank you. And I think that would be a great conversation too, is kind of go into that mental health. And I obviously, from kind of what I do with graphic design and marketing side of things, I kind of look at it through the lens of social media and the Facebook and Instagram, and how that can kind of take a toll on mental health, but also on the same flip coin, how it can be used for good. I feel like I would not know any of you guys had it not been for Facebook. So I'm extremely grateful to social media for that, but that it is how you use it. And I was just talking about this with some friends of mine, but how it would be a great topic of conversation, in that using social media for good versus letting it kind of how we were letting it spiral, and you see, all these people having great experiences, and you're like, oh my God, that's not me every single day of my life, but it's for other people. And that's clearly not true. And I think just kind of knowing the transparency of that, but also seeing how much it can be used for good, how you can find organizations you're passionate about. I found AchieveHERs through this, I think. And so it's I'm pretty sure all my friends in the area I have met through one form of social media or another. So I think for as much bad as it can do, there is a lot of good it can do. So kind of maybe a topic on the responsibility of that.
That sounds like it would be its own topic, would be, mental health and social media.
Right.
I mean, look at Kanye right now. So we won't even go into that. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, and I mean, that's another perfect example. I'm glad you brought it up. One of my jobs, probably 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I was the director of a crisis unit. So a lot of kids get Baker Acted. What is called Baker Act here in Florida is an involuntary admission to the psych unit from the schools, or because, we had so many children that would get Baker Acted because they were upset and they would try to kill themselves because their parents took their phone away. Wow. Or they didn't let them play the video game. So, that part of social media, it really is something that needs to be talked about, because I had children literally attempting taking pills, cutting themselves, doing all kinds of things just because they couldn't access social media. And and with COVID, I mean, they are so used to
It was how people communicate.
Right. Yeah. They don't talk, they don't call. We used to have phones. We used to call.
Yeah.
They're texting, they're Snapchatting, they're doing all these things. And when COVID hit, now you don't even have that peer group of interaction. Even though they go to a restaurant and they're all texting, at least they were getting together. And then COVID hit, and the isolation has been dramatic. Pasco County, and I know I have the number for Pinellas, but I don't remember off the top of my head. But Pasco County has had 50% increase on children's suicide since COVID hit, which is insane.
Yeah, wow.
And in the crisis units, I mean, I just met with my friends from Naples where I had the crisis unit. I met with them on Friday. The crisis unit is licensed to hold 11 children. They've had 20 children for the last 6 months, 20 and above, 20 and above. So they're trying to increase the licenses. But it's just, I mean, it has an impact. And kids, I feel kids are so entrenched in the social media that is definitely a different topic altogether. And
How,
it is
the good and the bad.
it's an addiction. I really, the kids that I saw in the unit were addicted to that social media and that phone. And that needs to be talked about too.
All right. Well, those are some good topics. Thank you so much, ladies. I really appreciate you.
Thank
And thank you, Second Soul Studios.
Thank you,
I am
Second Soul.
I am gonna get you guys on camera one day. All right.
Awesome.
That was it.
Second Soul Studios is a full-service production studio with capabilities for photo, video, podcasting, editing, co-working, and more. Our photo-video studio has a number of different backdrop choices and props to choose from. We also have a gourmet kitchen set, or if you're an upstart podcaster, you'll love our 4-person podcast studio. So what are you waiting for? Visit secondsoulstudios.com to book a tour today.